Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, Mike here. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe if you haven't already and check out some of my other videos. And welcome to the May edition of Mike's Monthly Movies. This is my monthly movie blog, as the title pretty aptly explains. I probably don't have to explain that in future, but thought I would. I do this every month, again, as the title explains, where I talk about all the movies that I watched in the month just past. I try to get this out in the first week of the month, so I should be on track for this one. And this is everything that I watched in May. You can also check out the first four. This is edition 5 of this. The first four are up. January, February, March, and April are already up. Binge them now. They are snap 1 to 2 minute reviews of all the movies that I've watched in the last month. But without further ado, I'd like to start off this month's edition, which was pretty lackluster. I watched a total of 14 films, most of them pretty average, none of them amazing. I don't think on Letterboxd, which is where I track all of this and you can follow me, my username is It's Radio Mike, I don't think any of these got over 3.5 stars. So let's get into it. Here's the first movie I watched for May 2021. If you have watched any of my other content on this channel, which I highly recommend you do because it is quite good, you will know that I am a huge gaming fan, and you will also know that I am a huge fan of the Ratchet and Clank franchise. These are amazing games, but as we have seen historically, video game films do not often tend to do well critically. There's just something about it that's really hard to adapt. And at the start of the month, I was just looking for something to watch on Stan, and I noticed that there was a Ratchet and Clank movie. I remember when this came out, I was really excited for it. It was like a movie version of the rebooted game on the PlayStation 4 that came out at the same time. They were supposed to go hand in hand, and I was really excited to go see it until it got really, really negative reviews, and I just decided to never see it. But I think that was a mistake. I think I should have given it a shot because it isn't as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Like, people genuinely made it out to sound like it was one of the worst movies ever made, which is totally not true. Commercially, this was a failure, which I can totally understand, but if you have played any of the Ratchet and Clank games, you will know that there is a lot of comedy in its writing, and that does translate really well here. All of the main characters from the games are represented really well. The story is fine. Again, it's just an expanded version of the game story. And I think if you are a fan of the games, you can have a lot of fun with this, and I think as a kid's movie, this does really well. The animation is fantastic for what it is. It's sort of up there with like some of the highest tier animation out there, so I think in that sense it's great. It's just a pretty average animated film, which I think is okay to describe it as because a lot of people describe it as one of like the worst films ever, but I don't actually think it was that bad. It is a shame this didn't do that well because I think a film franchise or a TV show franchise based on these games would have been amazing, but we probably won't get that now. Anyway, next. Okay, I'm sure a lot of people watch this one because sometimes you turn on Netflix, which has moved to having a lot of really big, popular, theatrically released films, to now sort of promoting its own content, which is definitely at the forefront of what it offers, and Love and Monsters was sort of the one they were putting up, at least on my Netflix, as a headlining offering from Netflix. And I checked this one out, and again, like, this one wasn't that bad. It was pretty enjoyable as a film. A lot going on here. Basically, it's like a post-apocalyptic film where monsters have taken over the Earth. Humans live underground, but the main character wants to find his long-lost girlfriend by emerging onto the overworld where all the monsters range and learning about them with another group of people he finds. And yeah, it's pretty good. I actually really enjoyed the monster designs in this, which are, you know, Kaiju and sea monster kind of inspired. One of them, the crab-like one, reminded me of the crab boss battle from Banjo-Kazooie from the Treasure Trove Cove level. And those are the niche pop culture references you will get only on this channel. Maybe some others, but only this one. I don't have too much more to say on this one. Like, it was an okay movie. I probably wouldn't watch it again, but, you know, I thought it was fine. Next up, Mortal Kombat. I did do a full review of this on my channel, so please go and watch that to get the full scoop. Overall, not that good. Probably won't come back to it. And again, the second video game themed movie that I watched in the month of May, which is actually pretty interesting. Ratchet and Clank definitely better than this. The story of this is really muddled and struggles a lot. Kano, the character played by Josh Lawson, is definitely the standout who brings the spirit of this film to life. Some of the fight scenes are very good, but overall this one was definitely a miss, and it's a shame because I want to see more video game movies succeed. So hopefully, if there's a sequel to this, which I don't know how it performed commercially, but there might be, there'll be another one, and it could be better. They certainly tease another one at the end of the film. Far too late spoiler warning, sorry guys. Okay, watch the full review for more on that. Here's the next one. Okay, The Ring. I talk a lot on this series about how there are just a lot of classic movies that I just never saw, and The Ring is one of them alongside Jurassic Park, which I believe I did in the March edition of this series, but yeah, The Ring, inspired by an original Japanese horror film, and I believe directed by the same director, or maybe I'm thinking of The Grudge, which I did in the last version of this. I think I'm thinking of The Grudge. Scrap all of that. Okay, The Ring. It is based on a Japanese horror film though, and this one, really, really good. A great adaptation, really easy to follow, a little bit cheesy, but I thought this was pretty fun. Some really disturbing imagery throughout this film. There is an excellent, excellent scene in which, and if you haven't seen it, I will spoil a moment towards the end, a great scene in which the, I guess, the spirit emerges out of a television, and it's very, very creepy. I did think, though, that the last, 20 to 25 minutes of this were a little bit unnecessary. It kind of wraps up really well at a point, and things are sort of resolved, and it takes a happy ending, and I thought it would have ended there, but then they basically do another 25 minutes at the end that kind of erases that, and turns out that that happy ending wasn't there, and the spirit wasn't looking for peace. Even though the peace was found, the spirit is going to continue haunting people. I believe there is a sequel to this, maybe, I don't know, possibly, there might be. I have just checked, there is a sequel to The Ring, it's called The Lord of the Rings. No, it's called The Ring 2, sorry everyone. That might be one to check out, but yeah, overall I thought The Ring was quite good for what it was, and really creeped me out at points. There comes a time in every man's life where he wants to see a big lizard bashing up a big monkey, and Godzilla vs. Kong kind of gives you everything you want. There's nothing particularly special about this film unless you want to see those things, which it does. It ticks it off. It's a pretty fun kaiju film. It's a cool kind of culmination of what the Monsterverse, I believe it's called, has been building towards, and we also get the reveal of, spoiler alert, a Mecha Godzilla in this world, which I thought was really cool. I have seen the original Godzilla vs. Mecha Godzilla, and this movie did it way better, so I think that's really good. In the original Godzilla vs. Mecha Godzilla is created by aliens from outer space, which was definitely way too camp for this film franchise, which in some weird way is more grounded in reality, I guess. This movie's fun. I then realized that I could recreate the whole movie in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and I probably won't watch it again. Trying to get at least one Australian film in every month, because I haven't seen many Australian films, and obviously, as you can tell, I am Australian. Big surprise. So I watched this movie Two Hands that stars Heath Ledger, the late Heath Ledger, and a very young Heath Ledger as well. And this is a really good film. It's a drama kind of crime film that follows this boy who gets involved with an Australian crime syndicate and accidentally loses a bunch of money and then has to recover it or escape being murdered. There's also some weird imagery of a dead guy that I can't quite remember what that was about. I think it was his brother or something. Overall, I enjoyed this. It's very much a film of its time. It's very late 90s Australia. Not that I was an adult in the late 90s of Australia. I was 5. And also not that I'm saying that late 90s in Australia was full of crime syndicates and gangs. What I was saying that the fashion and it's a bit of a time capsule. It does really scream the 90s in Australia, and I enjoyed this film a lot. Probably one of the better ones for the month overall. I don't know why I watched this movie, Goosebumps 2, Haunted Halloween. I really do not have any idea why I watched this film. I have seen the first one, so it wasn't like I skipped the first one, but I guess sometimes you're just like, it's an evening and you can't sleep and you're like, I'm gonna watch a movie on Netflix, and you just are scrolling through on your Apple TV, unsponsored, and you see Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween, and you're like, this just feels like a movie that I can put as little thought and effort into as possible, and I barely have to pay attention. I'll watch it. A few thoughts on this. I wondered why Jack Black only appears in like the last 15 minutes or so. Like, could they not afford him for the whole movie? I don't know, presumably not. The Goosebumps world is really interesting, and they used to have a TV show for kids based on Goosebumps when I was young, and I remember the episodes were genuinely scary, but nothing in this movie is genuinely scary. And I think that's okay, it doesn't have to be that, but I would like to see them trying to do horror for kids. Like, this is very much a family film, kind of like The Haunted Mansion, which was that movie with Eddie Murphy in like 2005, I'm gonna say. I would like to rewatch that at some point. But yeah, pretty average acting from one of the kids that was actually in It, which is a proper horror film that I guess maybe they saw him in it and was like, oh, he was in a real horror film, he can be in this kid's horror film. But yeah, it's a pretty bad movie, guys. I would not recommend watching it. But I mean, if you just want something really easy to watch, sure, put it on. This is another one that I will not speak too at length about because I did do a review of it on my channel. Please go and check that one out as well. I tend to do them for new movies when they come out. The Mitchells vs. the Machines, to me, a very overrated film that struggles with its messaging, that struggles with what it's trying to achieve, and I feel like it has been acclaimed by a lot of people because of its unique animation style, which is very cool, but I don't think that makes it a great movie. As well as that, I just think that, like, sometimes movies like this kind of get what I would call like a bandwagon review effect, where like one person gives it a positive review and then everyone else starts talking about it and goes, yeah, it was really good. It was the best movie. Oh yeah, that is the best movie. But it's like, it's not actually that good. And I think that like, people just don't want to be seen as like criticizing a movie that everyone else is saying is really good because they don't want to be like wrong. And then because of that, more and more people start giving the same movie really positive reviews, even though in their mind they're like, oh, I actually didn't think it was that good. This movie is not that good. I'm sorry, next. I am slowly making my way through every Friday the 13th film. If you want to see my thoughts on the first two, I think I did that in the February edition of this, maybe the January. I've done the third one maybe last month, and now I'm up to the fourth Friday the 13th film, Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Now, the next one is called A New Beginning, so it turns out they were lying. This one is not the final chapter at all. But I would say that this one, part 4, is the best since the first. The first is definitely still the best by far, but they are all very derivative of the first and are just formulaic and following exactly what the first did. I don't blame them. There's a bunch more Jason in this with the mask, it's cool. And we are also introduced to the character Tommy, who from what I can tell becomes a primary character in the future of the franchise moving forward. So I am keen to finally finish all of these and then do a full video review of the entire series because they are pretty fun. But again, like I said, they're very formulaic and they certainly rely on a lot of nudity and promiscuity from young people coupled with some pretty fun gore scenes if you're into that. But overall, like, there's not too much substance here, and I think the effect, like the camera effect and the like voyeuristic style was amazing in the first one, but you know, once you've seen it once, you've kind of seen it a lot. They're not doing anything different with it by part 4. So I'll keep watching them, but this one was, yeah, just okay. This movie, Gerald's Game, was recommended by a viewer every month. Leave a comment below if you want me to watch a certain movie and I will choose one and watch it. This was left by Pugapilla, who also has a great YouTube channel, so I'd appreciate if you go check him out and subscribe to him. He does some great movie and game related videos. Sort of similar to mine actually, which is really cool. I want to do a collab with him. But Gerald's Game, enough about Pugapilla. Gerald's Game. This is a movie based on Stephen King, and I believe last month I watched Pet Sematary and talked about my thoughts on Stephen King and how I think he's a little bit hit and miss both in the book and film worlds, but I can say that this probably was my favourite of the month. It was very, very creepy. If you don't know the premise of this, basically a woman is handcuffed by her husband to her bed, who then has a heart attack, the husband, and dies. And she is basically in the middle of nowhere with her hands handcuffed to her bed, which the whole time I was just thinking, well, I'm never letting someone do that to me. It was a really creepy prospect. Like, it's very scary to imagine yourself in the situation this woman is in and what she has to do. The only other time I've had these thoughts is in that episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza gets handcuffed to a bed by a woman who then robs him and leaves. Not quite as bad a fate as the woman in this film.
What's going on?
It was a pleasure doing business with you, George, but I'm afraid I'm gonna have to get going.
Get going, but we haven't really,
It's kind of interesting as well because a lot of this movie is like bottled in the sense that it takes place in the bedroom and the woman is having sort of visions and hallucinations of things that are happening, as well as flashing back into trauma she experienced in her past, which is also quite confronting, and I didn't think it needed to be done in the detail it was. I felt very uncomfortable watching a lot of the flashback stuff. But I guess that is the point of the movie, but I think it would have been very difficult to shoot. The thing I loved most, and if you've seen the film you will know, was the twist at the end. There is something that happens at the end that kind of reveals something that was going on the entire time while she was handcuffed and you didn't really pick up on it. And wow, that really creeped me out. It really shook me a lot that could have happened. So if you've seen the film, you will know. If you haven't seen the film, probably watch it. I think this was the best of the month for me. Pixels is a movie that, similarly to Ratchet and Clank, I put off watching even though I kind of wanted to. And the reason for that is because the reviews were very negative. If you don't know what it is, basically aliens from outer space send arcade game-like machines to come and destroy the planet Earth. And I thought this was pretty good. It certainly isn't anywhere near as bad as people make it out to be, and it might be because I have a familiarity with all of the games that were played, but I still think this was really well made. The animation of a lot of the alien machines, I guess, was really cool. The pixel effect on a lot of them. Adam Sandler is in it, and I didn't think he was that bad either. And a lot of the jokes and references to games and arcade culture were really cool. I didn't think they were anything near as bad or as lame as they could have been. The giant Pac-Man was amazing, and the cars they used for the ghosts I thought were great. This is a really underrated movie, and I think even the story is very well thought out. Like, how it all happens and what goes down is really well thought out. So overall, this one was also up there for the month, and I don't think it's as bad as people say. This is just a fun kind of comedy action movie that if you're a little bit of a nerd as well, you'll get a lot out of watching, I think. Next up, and if your Netflix algorithm is similar to mine, this would have been displayed all over your home screen, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film. From the year 1990, so I really wasn't expecting much, but even though I wasn't expecting much, I was still very disappointed by this movie, and I kind of regret watching it. Last year, I did a video on my channel talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie from 2014 with Megan Fox. And I said it was one of the worst movies I had ever seen for an array of reasons, and I recommend checking out that movie if you feel like it. But somehow that movie is no longer the worst Ninja Turtles movie. This one is. This is a really woeful and cringe-inducing relic of the 1990s. All of the turtles feel very samey, which even in the 2014 version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was not the case. They all did feel very distinct. You got an idea of all of their personalities. There were little hints of their personalities in this, but they didn't really feel like individual characters. The costumes, or whatever the turtles are, whether they're puppets or something like that, just look awful against the live action environment. Again, something 2014 did better. Granted, that was 24 years after, so I totally understand that. But yeah, I guess for what it was, this was an okay kids movie, but I really didn't enjoy it very much at all. I thought it was very cringe. Not to mention the use of a lot of slurs that are now not really commonly accepted in human vernacular, which I will not repeat here, and also a lot of what seemed to be deliberate call-outs to Star Wars. Seriously, at one point there's even what is essentially just a Force apparition.
I am proud of you, my sons.
And the main villain, Shredder, literally sounds like Darth Vader. And I didn't time code it while I was watching it, so I might not be able to find it, but at one point Splinter actually says to the Turtles, "I am your father," in a very similar way that Darth Vader said that. I actually wonder if this movie was deliberately trying to call back to Star Wars to try and make kids be like, "Oh, it's like Star Wars. We love Star Wars, so we love Ninja Turtles too." I may never know. But anyway, next movie. Okay, I had to keep going with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing, so I ended up watching TMNT. This movie, which is bizarrely titled, and I remember when it came out, everyone was like, is it called just TMNT? Like, and it is, it's just called TMNT. I don't know why I find that so weird. But the weirdest part about this movie for me was that I genuinely never knew this was a totally animated film. I thought it was the same as the others where the turtles were like animated and it was against a live action set. But no, it is a completely animated film. And I think that works really well for it. I think of these three Ninja Turtles movies, the 2014, the 1990, and this one, this is the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Of course, I haven't seen the 2 sequels to the 1990 and the 1 sequel to the 2014 one, but of the 3, I guess, debut Ninja Turtles movies, this is definitely the best one. All of the turtles are really well designed and slick. They look like I think they should look. They have their personalities. The animation is definitely low budget and it's not great at times, especially compared to what else was coming out in the animation world around this time. But it's a good story and I think it brings out the best in these characters, which was really good. I do want to do a video comparing the 3 of these movies as well, and I do want to watch the sequels at some point because I think it would be a little bit of fun. Last up for a month was a low-budget indie film that I saw at like a boutique cinema in Melbourne. I hadn't heard of this movie, but we wanted to go out and see something and we just settled on this. It's called I Blame Society. This movie is like a meta-satirical feminist commentary on the film industry where the director of the film, who is also the main character shooting a documentary, decides to become a murderer because she believes that the way that murderers become murderers is the same way that filmmakers become filmmakers. And I thought it was a little slow at first, but the last half an hour were really, really fun and really well shot and well thought out. And this descent into madness and the satire of this film director who becomes a murderer and is filming all her murders and is very nonchalant about the entire thing. I just thought, it's grown on me a lot. I came out of it not being too excited about it, but like retrospectively I enjoy it and I probably would want to watch it again despite the fact that I think it was a little too long. It could have shaved a little bit off the runtime, but I guess it was only like 90 minutes anyway. But yeah, overall, a decent month. Not too many great movies. I'm looking forward to this month. I'm getting around 12 to 15 movies a month, I think, which is cool. So I'm well on the way for June. And I think that's pretty much it for this month. Thank you so much for watching. Go and check out the others. January, February, March, April, May. June will be out, obviously, at the start of July, because I can't do a video. Anyway, you get how scheduling works. Subscribe to my channel. I also do other film and TV based videos on there, amongst other pop culture stuff. I recently did a video on why I think Brother Bear, the movie, is very underrated and why it's one of Disney's best, so I'd love for you to check that out if you have some time. But yeah, go check out my channel and just check out a bunch of my other videos. Thank you so much for watching. My name's been Radio Mike. I'll see you in the next vid.
But I went to run my hand through your hair and I noticed you were attached to string. You were a puppet this whole time, you were attached to string.